Here's the thing where in the white sympathetic sphere, everyone gets it wrong when it's not going free. And they will, seemingly many of whom will always get it wrong. They will say that they are focusing on the problem. The problem. They'll do this with primarily with the black race and with the Jewish race. They'll say they're focusing on the problem. The real problem with that is that you are not speaking for a people for which your opinion can influence that collective's opinion. I'm going to say it again. You are not speaking for a people for which your opinion, your conclusion here, can influence the collective's, that people's opinion. You don't have a people. When a black person gives an opinion, that opinion can influence their collective opinion. An identified problem for the black collective is met by black individuals with this question: is this truly a threat to our community, our people, our race? When whites give an opinion about a threat, when they're focusing on the problem, when white people give an opinion about a threat to the white race, they are such individuals that they almost never mention the victim people that they are presumably referencing. And they don't mention them because of that radical individualism. How many times have you heard people in the white sympathetic sphere talk endlessly about negative things about some non-white race and not mention once the victimization of white people? Or if they do, it's like an afterthought, something they're throwing in as an excuse to be able to focus on a non-white race, center them in the story, and then be able to say very negative things about them. And there's proof of this from many angles. What they end up doing is such individuals, they focus on the one group that they can identify. And in this case, it's the black race. And they talk about the threat to society. It's a threat to society. Often when whites center another race this way, they're not thinking about the white race at all. They are only thinking about the group they are centering. Evidence of this is that they make the same exact arguments, in this case about the black race, to other races, perfectly illustrating that the point of their argument is not the well-being of the white race, but the negative emotions they can stir toward another group. Again, in this case, it's the black race. Now, the fact of, if you're a big Jared Taylor fan and you want to say, but all of these crime statistics, what I'm saying here doesn't contradict any of the crime statistics. I'm concerned with preventing our white brothers and sisters from being victimized by anybody who's anti-white. That's what I'm concerned with. I'm concerned with creating a people out of our deracinated, individualistic race. Because we will never defend ourselves as a people, and therefore that redound to the health and welfare and benefit of us as individuals, until we see ourselves as a people. Until your first concern is, how are white people being harmed? Let's talk about that harm. Let's talk about how we put an end to the harm. So you've probably seen this too. You've probably seen people who are satellites in the Jewish people's story, and they want to go out to other races, non-white races out there, and they want to talk about all of the negative things that they feel about Jewish people. In this case, it's the same thing. You can very easily see, and you will have heard them talk about how, well, I went to this other non-white group and they're just as disgusted with the behavior of black people. That's what they That's what they would say. So what is this about? Is it about their hatred of the black race or Jewish race? It obviously is. It's not about the white race at all. You would not make these appeals to these other folks if it were not. Now, here's what happens when you give an opinion. When whites give an opinion about a threat to the white race, their audience, white people, do not ask themselves, is this truly a threat to our community, to our people, to our race? Because the white people don't have a people. They are all radical individualists, which is one of the many reasons why you have to focus on us and call our victimization anti-white and the victimizing ideology anti-whiteism. You do this to engender collective identity by way of shared persecution on the basis of a shared and inescapable characteristic, i.e., the biospirit of our race, the very essence of what we are. White people genetically are predisposed, it appears to be the case, to individualism. We lose everywhere, where as individualists we contend with groups of man who are apparently more collective in their thinking for their individual well-being. So you have to corner white people, essentially. You have to give them no option but to see the truth, that the victimization of them as an individual is a consequence of their membership in a collective that they're trying to deny, that they want to run away from, that they want to make deals with the other side for, that it's on that very basis that the collective is being victimized and therefore they are victimized. And it's inescapable. You can't undo what you are biospiritually. White people are individualists. You cannot go to them and speak to them about a threat to the totality for which they don't believe they belong, for which they believe that they can escape, for which they believe that they can conspire with a victimizer, per se, at their benefit and your detriment. This is so fundamental to understanding why the white race continues to lose in the defense of ourselves against the victimization of anti-whites and anti-whiteism, that it's ineffable. It is ineffable that this goes without widespread knowledge. That I know I'm speaking it now, and I know that there are people saying bullshit. It is a fact. The evidence is all around you. When you are white and you say, as so many do, and I get so sick and tired of seeing it and reading it, that what's wrong with identifying the problem as you focus on another race and make yourself a satellite in their story as some evil bastard? The problem there, among the other things that I stated earlier with being immoral and that sort of thing, being in their story, that as big as that of a problem as it is, we talk about that a lot. The huge problem that I'm talking about tonight, to recap, is that your opinion cannot influence the group's opinion because there is no white group. There is no white community. There are white individuals. It's akin to maybe you work at a firehouse and you know everybody at the firehouse is a fireman, and you get a call from your wife that the house is on fire. And so you sound the alarm. The house is on fire. And then instead of the firefighters acting in concert as they would if this were in reference to a non-white race, in my opinion at least, as the white race, the firefighters, some of them don't care. Some of them go to their houses as quickly as they can to make sure that their individual houses are okay. They're not on fire. That's what ends up happening. You don't have a people. You cannot identify a problem to the people. And again, to recap, the contrary for non-white races is if you are a member of a non-white race and you share an opinion and evidence of a threat to your people, the individuals of that race receive that opinion with the question, is this truly a threat to my race and therefore to me as an individual? In my opinion, all of them, that's what they do. Is the information that this person is providing accurate? Is it true? Because if it's true, then I'm going to join in the group opinion. And if you get enough people in the group, they're asking that question to start with, you get enough of them of that mindset, then you have a whole new stream or body of thought in that group. It cannot happen for the white race. And if you all remember, I was on JF years ago, and I was supposed to come on after David Duke. But as David Duke is wont to do, he was continuing to talk. JF brought me on because it was my time and he wasn't going to stay up all night. One second. And I and David Duke ended up in sort of an impromptu debate argument. And this is the case I was trying to make to him. And he absolutely could not see it. And then Richard Spencer called back in. Richard Spencer had been on the show earlier in the evening. And then it was Richard and David Duke against me. JF was laughing the whole time because he was seeing the point I was making. Neither of these guys could get it. Neither of them could understand that you can talk all day about problems for a group, but if the group doesn't know that it's a group or doesn't care, and in fact is composed of individuals, the consequence is some of them are going to run for the hills because they think that will save their individual ass. Some of them are going to take their resumes to the group that has the power enough to inflict injury on the white race, and they're going to want to join them. That's what we see. You can't argue with what is patently in front of you in every case and every time. So the biggest problem with pointing out the problem is that you don't have a people. And that is why anti-white, the concepts anti-white and anti-whiteism are the most important concepts for the white race, maybe ever, because we are heading rapidly toward dissolution. We've lost control of our countries, and they are headed in directions that are vehemently anti-white. And if you had talked to as many white people as I have, trying to bring them over to white well-being, trying to bring them over to caring about what happens to our race, you would know that you cannot give these individualists any room whatsoever. You cannot give them any leash, because if they can find a way out of it for themselves, they will. If you say this is a Marxist problem, a white person will say, well, can I villainy signal some Marxism? Or where do I got to move to get away from the Marxism? If you say this is a problem of the criminality of this group here, well, they'll say, well, I just won't live near that group. But I want my job and I want my promotions. And so I'm going to say the anti-white thing to stay at my place of employment, to continue paying for my children's dentist visits. They're going to say, maybe if I villainy signal some anti-whiteism, then I'll get more rewards in my life. Life will be easier, because you're not pinning on them the reality that no, you are going to be victimized as an individual because of a collective to which you belong that is being victimized on the basis of a shared characteristic that is inescapable. This is 201 IQ level stuff. And so I'm guessing that, as is always the case, there are going to be a lot of people who simply are not going to get it. And they're just going to want to ignore it because it won't serve the agenda of doing the same thing that they've been doing all along, using the same vehicles and the same ideologies. But for those who have the ability to understand, then this is for you. And you can understand how this commercial, this ad, is actually poison for Western kind.